The revised 2024 fighter has officially been revealed, and I think it's safe to say that the class is a significant improvement compared to its 2014 counterpart. Though many of the changes seem as though they come directly from the playtests with few updates, there have been some significant moves that are worth getting excited about, so let's talk about them. New information for the 2024 books is coming in hot, and I'm going to be doing my best to keep up with all of it, so if you want to help support me and not miss out on any of it, a sub to the channel would really mean a lot. I'm hoping to hit 10,000 subscribers by the time that the PHB officially releases in September. Or if you're so inclined, you can also become a member for as little as $1 per month and get all kinds of extras like early access to videos, homebrew reviews, and even more. Shout out to all my members, but especially to Julian and Corel, my newest member in the Champion tier, and Jackal3 and Jumpy Sonic Bear in the Hero tier. The first thing we get confirmation of is that both Action Surge and Extra Attack are sticking around. I don't think anyone expected these to go anywhere, but it is worth mentioning. The fighter also gets access to Weapon Mastery, which I discussed in my reveal overview video, so check that out if you want some more details on it. Fighting styles have also been improved. Apparently the Protection style, which essentially was never chosen, particularly after Interception was introduced in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, has received a massive update that will actually make it a genuine consideration. Also, all of the fighting styles from Tasha's, with the exception of Quick Toss, have been imported into the new Player's Handbook. Fighting styles can now also be swapped with each level in Fighter taken, which is a great update. The new second level feature, Tactical Mind, has made it through to the published book, and though we don't have any actual text, it seems largely unchanged. Tactical Mind allows you, when you fail an ability check, to consume one of your uses of Second Wind, sacrificing the hit points to roll a d10 and add it to the check, potentially turning that failure into a success. Also, if the check still fails, the use of Second Wind is not consumed. I'm a big fan of the potential for this feature, as it gives fighters some additional capability and flexibility outside of battle. It allows them to use their adept and focused mind to get a better assessment of a given situation after they've failed and sort of try again, but now with a better understanding of where they went wrong. It's flavorful and fun, and I'm here for it. I don't mind the Second Wind not being consumed if it still fails, as this incentivizes you to actually use the feature and engage with it rather than holding on to it for an eternity and then you just never end up using it. It turns a decision point that would often just have you feeling bad into one that's genuinely more tactical, as you get to consider what's more important, having some potential hit points in the future or a greater opportunity to succeed on a given check now. It's also worth noting that fighters will now get access to more and an increasing number of Second Wind dice as they level up. The 5th level feature, Tactical Shift, also seems unchanged from the latest Unearthed Arcana. The feature allows a fighter, after they've used their Second Wind ability, to move up to half of their speed without provoking opportunity attacks. This represents a character's ability to assess an opportunity and be able to move out of the way and potentially protect itself by getting out of harm's way. There's nothing particularly flashy or exciting about this feature, it just feels good and will certainly prove to be very useful. It also comes online at the same time as Extra Attack, so it's no wonder that it doesn't do much else. I'm always a big fan of features that grant additional movement, since I've often found that so many combat encounters just kinda end up with everyone standing around and hitting each other, but this gives added ways of moving around the battlefield, which can just make combat so much more engaging. The 9th level feature is also a new one, or at least a heavily adjusted one from even what we saw in the UA. The new Tactical Master replaces the Master of Armaments feature from the UAs and makes it substantially better. The old Master of Armaments feature, while not bad, felt very slow, clunky, and awkward to use, and it was only available on a long rest, so it always left me feeling like it wasn't really executing on the main goal of the class, which is to truly be a master of all weapons. Now, Tactical Master allows you, whenever you hit with a weapon, to replace your active weapon mastery on it with either the Push, Sap, or Slow mastery property. This effectively means that the fighter will always have these 3 mastery properties available to use at any given time once they reach 9th level. I think this is a great feature that will make the fighter and weapon masteries feel truly at home within the class. The options that they can choose from between Push, Sap, and Slow are also all consistently useful and don't require the enemy to make any saving throws, which will have the added benefit of not slowing the game down as a result of this feature. Because fighters also get access to so many attacks, it's worth remembering that these can all be used on different or subsequent hits, since there is no resource cost associated with using Weapon Mastery. The 13th level feature, Studied Attacks, has been carried forward from the UA and still feels fairly underwhelming to me. The feature allows you, after you miss with an attack roll, to have advantage on your next attack roll against that creature that you missed. The feature is fine. It's not that it's bad, it's just a bit meh. By the time you're 13th level, you will likely have a sizable to hit modifier, registering at least a +10 before you consider even magic items. So you probably aren't missing all that much anyway, and it isn't like there's a shortage of ways to have advantage in the game anyway. To be clear, I don't think this feature is bad by any means. It fits very well thematically with the class and will do exactly what it intends to do. It just feels a bit on the weak side for a 13th level feature in my opinion. But please tell me how wrong I am in the comments. 19th level brings a change that was somewhat experimented with in some of the earlier UAs and will actually be available to all classes, and that's the unlocking of epic boon features. In some of the later UAs, 19th level granted an ability score bonus that allowed you to exceed 20, but now this has been removed in favor of bringing epic boons into the actual playable portion of the game. And I say that as someone who's just given out their first epic boons after my party hit 20th level. Bringing these down to level 19 means that there's a small chance that they will actually get used, and by the sounds of it, they have been really empowered from the 2014 versions, which have some insanely high variance on them. That said, the one that allows you to turn a miss into a guaranteed hit just kind of feels like a slightly better version of studied attacks, which again was underwhelming at 13th level and is even more underwhelming now at 19th. Side note, hopefully this will mean that they actually incorporate epic boons into the D&D Beyond character builder. Like I mentioned, my group just got access to them and we honestly couldn't figure out how to add them to the characters outside of some weird wonky workaround with homebrew features. I mean, maybe we're all just dumb, so if someone knows how, let us know, or if it doesn't actually work, hey, Wizards of the Coast, can we make it work please? Interestingly, no mention was made of the Indomitable feature, which saw a massive improvement in the UA cycle, allowing you to add a reroll to a failed save with a bonus equal to your fighter level. And considering this comes online at 9th level, you're getting a minimum +9 to the roll, so this is extremely powerful, and I wonder why it wasn't mentioned. Moving on to the subclasses, again, it seems like most of what we saw in the UA just kinda moved forward. Beginning with the Battlemaster, the maneuvers from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything have been brought over with some undisclosed tweaks made to them. The 3rd level feature, Student of War, still grants a tool proficiency and now also grants proficiency in a skill of the choices available to fighters at 1st level. This just helps to sell the fantasy that the Battlemaster is in fact a master of battle and allows them to feel more complete and well-rounded. The 7th level feature, Know Your Enemy, is massively improved from the version in 2014. Now, when you use it, which you can once per long rest, and regain a use by expending a superiority die, you can learn the resistances, immunities, and vulnerabilities of any creature within 30 feet of you. This makes the feature substantially better and much more usable in battle, where it just wasn't before since it required a full minute to use. Interestingly, no mention was made of the 15th level feature, Relentless, which in the UA at least allowed the Battlemaster to essentially get one free use of their maneuvers per turn, though the die rolled was a d8 rather than the d10 that they would be at that level. This is a powerful feature, so I do wonder whether it was kept around or modified some more. Moving on to the champion, Jeremy Crawford made it clear that this class intentionally lives on the quote-unquote simple side of the spectrum of complexity within the game. They wanted the champion fighter to feel like an easily approachable subclass for the game, but still to be able to give the player a good and well-rounded experience. In an effort to accomplish this, they've kept the core identity of the subclass, that being one focused around its sheer strength and athleticism, and also by tweaking some features to add a little bit more depth to it. Firstly, the Remarkable Athlete feature has been moved all the way down from 7th level to 3rd, which means it now comes online immediately when you obtain your subclass. The feature now grants you advantage on both initiative checks and strength athletics checks. It should be noted that Remarkable Athlete did technically always work with initiative, though it didn't used to give you advantage. But this was something that felt potentially opaque to new players, so they wanted to make it abundantly clear. Additionally, a change from the UA is that Remarkable Athlete now also allows the character to move a certain distance without provoking opportunity attacks when they score a critical hit. I mentioned before how I always appreciate new ways of granting movement to characters, and this is no exception. It combines so nicely with the champion's improved critical feature and is sure to be useful. The advantage on initiative that Remarkable Athlete provides leads nicely into a bigger conversation surrounding the new rules for Surprise, which I am incredibly excited about. Surprise in 2014 5th edition was arguably one of the most misunderstood mechanics in the game. This was largely due to the fact that it was handled very differently as compared to previous editions. 5e has no notion of a surprise round, despite what a lot of people say. Instead, it's treated more like a status condition where certain creatures may or may not be surprised, the effect of which is that they cannot act on the first round of combat. This rule has led to endless confusion throughout the last decade of the game. Now, however, surprise has been changed, and it simply says that the creatures that are surprised have disadvantage on their initiative check. I think this is a great change. It gives a distinct hindrance to characters that are surprised and does so in a way that is mechanically simple and intuitive, and also allows different ways of granting bonuses. For example, the Remarkable Athlete feature, which grants the champion advantage on initiative rolls, would mean that they would never be rolling disadvantage if they're surprised, but it would be, at worst, a straight roll given that advantage and disadvantage always cancel each other out. This is a pretty big deal. Prior to this change, not only did it add confusion and complication to the game, but surprise could often completely trivialize combat. One or multiple enemies just sitting idle while an entire round of combat passes them by could be simply devastating and resulting in a combat that was essentially over before it even began. This new version of surprise keeps things a bit more tame while still making the effect feel good. The new 10th level feature, Heroic Warrior, allows the fighter to give themselves heroic inspiration whenever they begin their turn without it. As a reminder for anyone that might have missed it, the new version of Heroic Inspiration, or what they used to call Heroic Advantage, isn't advantage at all anymore. It allows the character to re-roll any die. This means that they can use their Heroic Inspiration to re-roll a damage die, or to get an extra die roll, or to fish for some crits or something like that. It looks like my Slurper build just got a lot stronger. I will say that a free reroll every single turn feels very good, but that's largely based on vibes only. Given that the rest of the class doesn't necessarily have as much going on with it, it's probably fine, and who knows, maybe it actually helps keep the class viable. Finally, the 18th level feature, Survivor, has also been updated. In addition to its old ability, now called Heroic Rally, it now has a new ability called Defy Death. Defy Death gives the champion advantage on death saving throws and also expands their widened crit threshold to death saves, meaning that on a roll of 18, 19, or 20, they gain the benefit of a natural 20, meaning that they instantly restore 1 hit point, and as a result, clear all death saves. Slight aside, this does mostly confirm that we're unlikely to see any major changes to the death and dying rules in the game, given that the way it's described is kind of exactly as it would work now. The Eldritch Knight is the third subclass for fighter to move forward into the 2024 books, and has also received some nice quality of life improvements. Not the least of which is that the School of Magic requirements that were present before have been removed. Previous versions of the Eldritch Knight always had the requirement of forcing the character to choose at least some spells from the Evocation and Abjuration schools of magic. This is no longer in effect, which grants the subclass a lot more flexibility in terms of what it can do. While I thematically liked the spell school restriction, I can definitely appreciate why they wanted to do away with it. Also, the Arcane Trickster Rogue has also had their spell school requirements dropped. And Eldritch Knights have also been given the ability to use an Arcane Focus, which always felt missing from its 2014 arsenal. Their 7th level feature, War Magic, has received a very nice upgrade in that you no longer need to consume your bonus action to make a weapon attack when you cast a cantrip. The 2014 version of this feature was a lot more punishing in that it would already require you to sacrifice all of your attacks to cast a spell, but then it would also require you to use your bonus action to make a single weapon attack, which you obviously don't get the benefit of extra attack with. Now, however, the War Magic feature allows the character to sacrifice one of their attacks when they take the attack action to cast a cantrip. This is so much better, it's astounding, and also just feels so much more thematic and on brand with what you would expect from this melee caster hybrid. Swinging swords 1 second and immediately moving into casting spells the next. Then, Improved War Magic, which still comes at 18th level, allows the character to replace 2 of their attacks to cast a 1st or 2nd level spell. Now, at least as far as was detailed in the video, there's no timing restriction. The UA has indicated that the spells needed to have a casting time of 1 action, and I assume that that restriction is still in place. However, based on my interpretation of what Jeremy Crawford said, and assuming there are no fundamental changes to the spellcasting rules, you could, on the same turn, forgo 1 attack for a cantrip, and then forgo your next 2 attacks and cast a 1st or 2nd level spell. This is a great move as it just allows the class to have so much more flexibility in the way that it chooses to utilize their features that it has available to them. Whether that's through casting spells, making attacks, or some combination of the two, and beyond that, just freeing up their bonus action for other uses is just the icing on the cake. None of the subclass's other features like Warbond, Eldritch Strike, and Arcane Charge appear to have had any change either during the UA or in these announcements. If they have been changed, it's likely some slight wording adjustments to make them more clear or to play better with other rules in the game, but not really anything fundamental to their functionality. The Psi Warrior is the 4th class that will appear in the new Player's Handbook for the 2024 revision, and it essentially seems like it will move largely unchanged from the version that appeared in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. They spent a grand total of 1 minute and 12 seconds discussing it, and nothing that they said really indicated anything new. Jeremy Crawford simply stated that the changes made to it were slight wording updates and clarifications and nothing else. In his video, Train Monk said that the only change made to it is something that would further incentivize a player to stick with Fighter, but beyond that, it's functionally the same subclass. I truly think that the revised Fighter has a lot to offer in the new books. I think Jeremy Crawford was definitely overselling it when he said that fighters will be as flexible or powerful as wizards because of their new stuff like weapon masteries. I think that was a bit too ambitious of a statement based on what we've seen. I think the class and all of the subclasses will be in the best state that they've ever been, and I think all of the new options available, including weapon masteries, will make the fighter feel like a fundamental improvement over its 2014 self. I think granting new ways of movement and out-of-combat options will go a long way to helping sell the class fantasy and work better than ever. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to help me reach that goal of 10,000 by the time the PHB comes out in September. Check out some of my other D&D videos, but otherwise, take care.